Welcome, everyone, to the MMA Happy Hour. I am Kyle Anthony, your host. Today, we are talking UFC Vegas 89, Rose Namajunas versus Amanda Ribas. We're going to talk three plays here like we always do on the show. And listen, for the last 2 months, I have come on this show and I have said, hey, we have cashed. We keep cashing. We've got a streak going. And guess what? We did it again. We picked up 6 units last weekend. Really, really happy about the performance there. Did really well. We had 4 plays for clients, hit all 3 of them. The only one we didn't hit was Brian Battle. That was our bigger play of the night. We were all over that. It really should have been probably about 10 units of profit. But either way, we were on here, hit every single plus money play that we had and we talked about here in the show. And that is why I don't go over every fight. I don't like to do that. Mostly reason is I'm looking to dive into plays where there's value, where there's an edge, where we can put our money in strong positions. And boy, we have done that. So really feeling good about it right now. 8 straight UFC events we have cashed. Number 9 is coming this Saturday. Really excited about it right now. Do have a 5% play up right now for clients. Feeling really good about the spot. And get on it if you want to become a client. Link down in the description. So check that out. Also, if you want a free $100, go over to Underdog Fantasy, promo code Mr. UFC, or click the link in the bio. You can then get your money over there, do a little bit of the fantasy side of things, whether you're doing NBA, you're doing UFC, or any other sport they do, and they got you covered there. So with paying the bills out of the way, let's get into the main event of the evening between Rose Namajunas and Amanda Ribas. Ribas, whatever it may be. Right now, we've got the line Rose Namajunas minus 210. On the comeback here, we've got Amanda Ribas plus 175. So we all know what we're getting here in this spot when you're looking at Rose Namajunas, former strawweight champion, very, very well-rounded. On the other side, you've got Amanda Ribas, where she's just aggressive. She's going to push forward, and she's a high-level jiu-jitsu player. Now, when you're looking at this fight, you know, this is the second time that we have Rose fighting in the flyweight division. And I think that's a really interesting piece to this fight when you're just kind of looking at it as a whole. You know, prior to her move, she fought maybe one of the worst title fights in the history of the UFC. She fought Carla Esparza, was one of the most boring fights. Output was terrible. Everything was bad overall. It was a close fight, but it ended up being a loss for Rose Namajunas. If you look at the strikes landed, the significant strikes, it was 37-30 in a 5-round fight. That is impressive to actually have that low over 5 rounds. Wait, before we kind of get into that. And then she loses that, and then she wants to make the change. And here you're looking now at you know, her fight against Manon Fiore, where Manon is physical, big, strong, really, you know, going to be a title challenger, you know, really a lot of great things that she does do. And she was pretty much outgunned, you know, kind of in that fight. She just didn't have the firepower. She just didn't have it. But when you kind of look at it a little further, is that Rose supposedly broke her hand or some kind of injury in that first round. She ended up winning the 3rd round. You know, Rose looked good in certain spots in that spot, but again, the power, the strength, the physicality, I think was a little bit too much for her. Even significant strikes landed there was 60-58. So it's not like she got washed there. I thought that she looked pretty good in that spot. Now, the difference here on Saturday is going to be the fact that Ribas is not big flyweight. You know, she's been bouncing back and forth between the divisions. And I think that kind of could give a little bit of a more of an edge to Rose because of the fact that she's not going to have to deal with that physicality. She's just not going to have to deal with it. And I think that's going to be something that's going to be really important here. But if you look on the feet here, I mean, if this stays on the feet, I think Rose pieces her up throughout the 5 rounds or however long the fight goes. I just think that her footwork is incredible. I think that really is going to be the hardest part for Amanda to kind of cut distance, to kind of get in there, throw her big shots. You know, faster developing combinations from Rose. She works her angles really well. And I just think that the striking for Amanda is pretty sloppy. I mean, she kind of uses her striking to kind of go in there, cut distance, get her hands on you, bully her way in. You know, she's tough, and there's no doubt about it that she's a tough girl, can come forward and throw the big shots, but she just doesn't have the technical skills when it comes to just purely boxing or kind of being on the feet and mixing it in a little bit. And I think that's going to be an issue for her. And really the footwork of Rose, I think, is going to cause Ribas problems the entire fight. And I think another big issue for Ribas in this spot is really just her terrible striking defense. And when she pushes forward, when she's looking to cut that distance, a big part of that really is just kind of leaving her head up. You know, she's got her head up, her chin's up in the air. She's throwing shots. She's just trying to land. And that's going to open up opportunities for Rose Namajunas, who has fantastic boxing, really has, you know, again, has those skills to really kind of piece her up at distance, even when she's coming in forward. And I think the better minute winner, I think the better minute winner over this fight is going to be Rose. I just think Rose is going to have that output, have the volume, outlanding her, and I think that's going to help her big time. Now, there's definitely going to be a threat when you're talking about the ground game of Amanda Ribas. I mean, there's no doubt she's very, very high level when it comes to there. She can latch onto anything. You know, she has that ability to look for those finishes, high level jiu-jitsu player, you know, like I said, and that could be where the threat lies for her, you know, and I think that could be a possibility. You know, could she get the takedowns? Could she look for, you know, cage push her up against the fence? Maybe. But also the fact that, you know, Rose, you know, a lot of us, I think, kind of forget that Rose was a predominantly a grappler. You know, she was really a grappler. You know, that was her initial really skill set. And then she kind of, you know, blossomed into this great striking, the good footwork. You know, she doesn't look the part of some bruiser that's going to throw some big shots, but she definitely can pitter patter her way really through fights. And we've seen her, you know, face extremely high level fighters, you know, beat multiple world champions. And that, to me, again, the skill level, the experience, the really the arsenal of weapons that Rose does have, I think highly favors her. And the fact that, yes, if this fight goes to the ground, there's going to be opportunity for Ribas to do certain damage there, find a position, bank around, or whatever it may be. But again, Rose is slick on the ground. She's, you know, very opportunistic off of her back. You know, she'll look for certain things. And I think that's, you know, that could be an opportunity where even if she goes to the ground, I think Rose can get back up or at least stay safe enough for her to at least kind of get through the round, even if she can't get back up. And Ribas has that strength advantage of some sort and able to kind of keep her down and do those kinds of things. And I think that's going to really be a problem for her. And most of all, overall, when I'm looking at this, it's just the fact that it's just going to be the weapons, you know, and it's hard to really back Amanda when there's just not a lot that I think that she does well. I mean, I really don't think she does much well. You know, in an MMA sense. I mean, again, she's a talented fighter. You know, there's really good things that she can do. But again, in an MMA sense, you know, her striking's not there. You know, her footwork is not there. You know, her wrestling is not there. You know, if the fight can get, you know, is her toughness there? Absolutely. You know, can she push forward? You know, absolutely. But, you know, her chin's been a little suspect as well, too. I think that the massive advantage of this footwork, again, is going to be the biggest portion of Rose working and pitter-pattering from the outside. And that's kind of where I think this fight goes. Yes, I do think Rose gets this victory here, but I do think this one goes the distance. You know, I don't think that either one is really going to have that opportunity to get a finish. And I think also Rose can, you know, kind of play that game where she's fine not, you know, going out there and having some flashy finish by any means. We have seen that where she can be fine working at distance, pitter-pattering shots, utilizing her footwork, and even, you know, and getting this to the scorecards. And I think the better minute winner, the more output, the more shots landed is really going to be Rose here. So, you know, getting off the big number about -210, you know, we're seeing that number kind of fluctuate all over the place the last few days. But getting off the big number here, I like Rose via points +250. I think is a great number here. And I just don't think that the finish is going to be there. I think, again, if there's going to be a finish, I think it could be something on the ground. It could be something like that. And I think both of them kind of nullify each other out where neither is going to get a submission. And I think the minute winner and the more output will be Rose. So I'm taking Rose Namajunas via points +250. Now, the next one we're going to talk about here is going to be Carl Williams versus Justin Taffa. We've got Justin Taffa. Carl Williams is -200 and Justin Taffa is +160. Now, we all know what we're getting with Carl Williams here. Hold on. Listen, we all know we're getting with Carl Williams here, right? he's a wrestler. He's going to push a pace. He's going to try to grind on you, get the takedowns, get that control time. That's pretty much what he's going to be looking to do throughout the entire fight. Taffa on the other side here, heavy hitter, big time KO power, and he's definitely going to look to slug it out in this fight here. And there's no doubt that Carl Williams has a path to victory. You know, there's no doubt, and that's why I think this number is where it is at -200, because of, you know, could there be a takedown? Could he be smothering? Could Carl Williams absolutely do that? He can. You know, there's no doubt that's his path, and he's not going to really deviate from it. He's not going to look to kind of go another way, stand and throw with Justin Taffa. Absolutely not. And he's going to look to really kind of smother that offense, stay forward, push forward, you know, cage push you. You know, it's not going to be any sexy kind of win if he pulls out this victory. It's going to be mostly positional. It's mostly, you know, controlling you and keeping you down, and even kind of slowing you down as the fight goes on. Just endlessly chain wrestling. And that's the one thing that he has also. You know, it is going to be the smaller cage. It could provide opportunities for you know, Williams to really cut the distance, get on him, get a takedown. Even if Taffa gets up, continually chain wrestle. We've seen that's what he does. He will sell out for those takedowns, for that control time. And the other side of it here is that, you know, okay, so Williams you know, Williams is not a dangerous guy. You know, it sounds bad saying that, but he's not that dangerous. You know, he does not present a threat on the ground. Even when he's on the ground in a good position, he does not look that great when it comes to that. He's had 3 fights in the UFC, including Dana White's Contender Series. And even with that, to me, you know, it's really been just kind of holding guys, you know, banking rounds, winning position. On the feet, he has not looked that good, at least in the UFC. I've seen other, you know, tape where he's got some finishes in regional scenes and other organizations, but with the UFC, it's been, you know, I feel like he's a little overwhelmed by the striking. He does not have the caliber of striking to really stand and bang, especially now he's going to deal with a heavy, big time power puncher. And, you know, 3-0 in the UFC, all of them going by decision. And I think one of the biggest kind of red flags for me, really, on the Carl Williams side is his last fight against Chase Sherman. And I couldn't rate Chase Sherman any lower, pretty much. I mean, the guy is 1-6 out of his last 7 UFC fights. Now he's fighting in bare knuckle, which is where pretty much MMA rejects go. No offense to anybody over there, but that's pretty much what that is. You know, and, you know, unless they kind of pay him a little more and get the right guy, but that's a whole nother conversation. But, Chase was able to really make it competitive. Now, if you go on the scorecards and you just look and say, hey, you know, what happened in that fight? You'll see that Carl Williams, you know, beat him. I think the scorecard 30-27 and 2, or, you know, pretty much it was all given to Carl Williams. Just by, if you look at the tape, I mean, if you look at the scorecards, that's what you see. This is why tape study is so important when you're breaking down fights. Absolutely, it's completely important. And you can tell other people that don't do tape study because they're pretty much just giving this blimp view of what's going on. Oh, this guy's a good this guy's a bad this, and this is what should happen. You know, you really got to dive into styles, into matchups, into what happened in the past, and can that be, you know, put into this particular fight, and can the other opponent defend those certain things? And I think tape study, again, is extremely, extremely important when it comes to this. And when I was going back and watching, there was a lot of issues with Carl Williams, and again, it's fact that I don't think he's that dangerous of a guy, and he's kind of going to have to do this lay and pray kind of thing. But somebody like Chase Sherman, who again is a guy that's not even with the organization, that's very low level fighter, fought him very, very well. And I think one of the biggest things when you looked at it was the leg kicks. And that is a huge, huge opportunity for Justin Taffa, because you look at he just was not able to check them. I mean, Chase Sherman just kept slamming, chopping, chewing up that front leg. And, you know, Williams had no answer for it. He at times didn't even look like he was attempting to even check a leg kick in particular spots as well, too. So it was just terrible all around. And then even with the takedowns, you know, the takedowns were desperate, sloppy. You know, he almost had struggled to cut distance and had issues cutting distance. And this is against Chase Sherman. Chase Sherman doesn't offer much of a threat on the feet at all. And it just shows to me, honestly, how trash, you know, Carl Williams striking is. It's just not good. And this is going to be a spot where if Chase Sherman can land some shots and make it somewhat of a competitive fight and moments, I think someone like Justin Taffa can make this a very competitive fight on the feet as well. And to me, it was just a really bad showing on that Chase Sherman side. The other part of this now, enter Justin Taffa, is he is a big time leg kicker. I mean, this guy fires big time leg kicks. He chops away. He's got tree trunks for legs. I think it's going to be tough also to take Justin Taffa down. I don't think that's going to be as easy as it may seem, because he does look a little bit unathletic, and he's a little bit heavier of a dude, and maybe maybe it just kind of looks that way. But he has not been taken down in the UFC. That also a little bit of a different stat. I mean, a little bit of a misleading stat there, because he hasn't really needed to defend any, because he's just fighting guys who are going to sling and bang and not really look to like level change. So that to me is where there's openings for him here. If he can defend some of these takedowns, if he can smash the front leg of Williams, which I believe that's exactly what he's going to do early and often, it's going to be very tough for him. And then also you kind of add in the fact that Taffa is patient. He's a patient striker. He's a guy that's not going to just go out there and throw crazy volume. He's just not that guy. And I think guys that march forward will have more success. Williams will have more success on these takedowns, because they're going to run into some of these takedowns. He can level change. He can push. If Taffa's going to be on the outside, chopping at legs, throwing big haymaker shots, big uppercuts, big hooks, that one of those is a fight-ending shot, that's going to maybe make somebody like Williams a little more tentative, a little more wanting to work at distance, a little bit more nervous cutting that distance. It's almost like Derek Lewis versus Curtis Blades. Curtis Blades had a path there, get the takedown, try to get the takedown, and it was almost as if he was scared, knowing that power was there, and then he ends up getting lit up. So that to me is definitely going to be an issue when you're looking at that. And again, Taffa is the better striker. And again, it's really a one path spot for Williams. And if Williams gets his victory, I think it's not going to be a finish. It's going to be takedowns. It's going to be, boring. It's going to be a takedown and lay on you. And then Taffa could get up and he's going to get a takedown and lay on him again. I don't really see a finish in this fight here, but I'm more on the side that this is going to be on the feet, that there could be some opportunities for him to get for Williams to get the takedown, get some control time. But I do think that it's going to be very difficult for him, because again, cutting that distance, checking the leg kicks, worrying about the heavy shots up top, and not having striking, Williams not having striking, I think just really provides opportunity here for Justin Taffa. I do lean a little bit towards that knockout here. The knockout's sitting around plus 250 also. So it's a nice number there at not a round or anything like that. I do think that there's opportunity there, but for me, in this spot here, I gotta go Justin Taffa plus 160, even though that number has come down. I think it was plus 220 or something like that last week or earlier in the week, whatever it was. And now it's come down. I still like it. You're giving me plus 160 in this fight here, in a fight that I don't think Carl Williams is that good just in general. So I do like Justin Taffa to get the job done. Another plus money play here, Justin Taffa plus 160. Now, the last fight we're going to go over here is going to be Billy Q minus 142, which is actually, I'm starting to see that line kind of come up again. It's another one where we are seeing a lot of line movement on that fight. And then the other one is Youssef Zalal, who he's facing, plus 120. So this is an interesting fight, I think that's on this card here. And Billy Q, durable fighter. He's going to push forward. He's going to really, really give up, push that pace and that pressure, where you've got Youssef Zalal on the other side here. This guy, well-rounded fighter, but definitely a technical striker when you're looking at it. And this is another interesting, where I was just talking about line movement. This opened up Billy Q, I think is around like minus 280, somewhere around there. I think, depending what book or where you're shopping or whatever it is. Again, always have a lot of different books. That's another thing, but maybe for another time. But because I get DMs sometimes, people are like, I don't have that book. I'm like, you should fucking go get an account over at that book, because you should have like 5 different outs at least. But anyway, so anyway, he opened up around the minus 300 mark. Now he's around the minus 150 mark. And it's incredible that the money, how much has come in on Zalal in this spot here. And, I think a little bit of it has to do with when some people are going back and they're rewatching, Zalal had a really competitive fight with current champion Ilia Topuria. And, no doubt about it, it was a competitive fight. Zalal looked good. It was, a fight where Topuria won. But again, they went the distance. He fought well. And I think that's a little overstated when you're kind of looking at it, going back and seeing who these guys fought and all that stuff. I mean, it was the debut of Topuria in the UFC, and also this was back in 2020. So it's not that this is some very recent fight or the debut always is going to be where the fighter's just not going to be at top condition. That's kind of a thing that you always see there, whether it's nerves, getting used to it, whatever it is. But anyway, he goes out there and he does beat Zalal in a competitive fight. The other part of this is that after that he lost. He didn't look good. He ended up getting beat up by Sung Woo Choi. He lost to Sean Woodson, and then he had a draw with Damon Blackshear, and then the UFC got rid of him. Leaves the UFC after going 0-3-1, then ends up coming back. He went out, fought lower level organizations, and now here he is. Here he's back. Now, one of the biggest issues going back and rewatching tape is the fact that Zalal is just very, very, very low volume. I mean, this guy does not push out a high volume. He does have the striking. He's got good kickboxing. He's got good footwork. He can work at range. And he's got some weapons there, but he just doesn't pull the trigger very often. And that is going to be a problem at any point when you're looking at it. That's going to be a problem at any point. And when you're looking at it, just stat wise here, Zalal averages 3 significant strikes landed per minute on the and on the other side you've got Billy Q, who averages 8 significant strikes per minute landed. So he's landing literally 4 times as much as Zalal is, and that's a big problem here when you're fighting somebody like Billy. He weaponizes that cardio so well. He's able to push the pace. He's able to get on you, push forward, really make it difficult for you, kind of smothering really anything that you can offer. He can cage push if he wants to. He can get some takedowns. But the one thing is that he's durable, and he's going to have a big gas tank to really push forward, cause problems, and make it really dirty. And Zalal's a guy who's going to want space, who's going to want to work at range, who's going to want to utilize some of that kickboxing. And then you add in that this is going to be in the apex cage. I think that really also does hurt Zalal in this spot where he can't really kind of find opportunity to start to kind of, back up a little bit because, and again, we all know that Billy is going to move forward. He's going to have volume. He's going to push the pace, and he's not going to care what kind of, at times, he takes a little too many shots than he should be. But again, Zalal, the low volume, won't really present that problem. I think when Billy comes forward, he really looks to push that pace. And the other part of it is the fact that Billy's going to have the size. I think the strength advantage, the physicality advantage will also go to Billy here, and I think that really hurts a lot of the things that Zalal wants to really utilize. And if he wants to push him up against the fence, if he wants to cage push, he can do all of those things. So I really think that there's a lot up against Zalal. And then the last part here that is up against Zalal is the fact that this is short notice. This is a very short notice fight for him. And you also add in the fact that this is not only just short notice, but this is up a weight class. So he really is up against it when you're looking at Zalal, who's going to have low volume, who's stylistically, I think, going to struggle. The smaller apex cage, short notice, up a weight class. I mean, that's a lot of things to me that really point towards Billy Q's style. And even at this price, I like this price. I mean, now that it's come down, I think this is a great spot here around the -140 mark. I think is a great spot here for a guy that I do believe has all the skills, has fought tough guys in the UFC, has stayed in the UFC. So I do like Billy Q to get the job done, -142. So there you have it for UFC Vegas 89. Let's see how we do. Let's get this 9th straight UFC event cash. Now, if you want to become a client, again, link down in the description right now. All different when you're looking for monthly, yearly, or just this weekend. We got you covered there. So let's keep it going, and we'll do this again next weekend. Let's cash.